Washington B segment tonight, confronting terrorism. Yesterday, FNC State Department correspondent James Rosen asked this question about ISIS.
From a sort of common sense point of view, the average American will say to himself, this group is at war with us. Why does our president or our Secretary of State not recognize that and say, indeed, we are at war with this group and we will destroy them?
Well, I think, first of all, James, our actions speak for our commitment to this. And the president has authorized more than 100 strikes in Iraq.
And joining us now from Washington, ACE reporters Carl Cameron and James Rosen. Was that answer suitable for you, Rosen?
Well, Bill, it was one of those responses that provides a clear answer to the question despite the respondent's desire to avoid doing so. After a little more back and forth, Jen Psaki told me she sees no utility in placing new labels on the terms of engagement for the United States. If you translate that from Diplo-speak, it means no. This administration does not regard the murders of Misters Foley and Sotloff as acts of war, or more to the point, this administration is not placing the United States on a war footing with respect to ISIS.
Now, do you think that the Obama administration sees them as crimes? Is that how they process it?
Well, we got some insight into how this administration is viewing the threat from ISIS from President Obama's remarks in Estonia this morning. He's traveled to Europe to participate in a NATO summit. In just one appearance in Estonia, the president set forth 3 different missions vis-a-vis ISIS. At one point he said the mission is to destroy ISIS. At another point he spoke of wanting to roll them back. And at still another point he spoke of wanting to shrink ISIS's sphere of influence until it is a manageable problem. And when I asked Jen Psaki today in today's briefing about the apparent contradiction between wanting to destroy something and then wanting simply to reduce it to a manageable problem, she accused me of trying to, quote, twist words and play word games, Bill.
Okay, so but with all due respect, and you don't have to comment on this, that woman looks way out of her depth over there. Just the way she delivers, it just doesn't look like she has the gravitas for that job. And that brings us to John Kerry, the Secretary of State. He doesn't say very much about this. They muted him big time, did they not?
Well, he spoke out as well, but look, the fact is, and it requires no descent into partisanship to say so, is that this administration has talked a lot about ISIS, but also given a lot of conflicting messages about it. And Ben Rhodes can tweet all he wants, and Josh Earnest can spin all he wants from the White House podium. It's not going to change the fact that from this miasma of verbiage, one sentence comes through strong and clear to the American people and will echo down through the ages. And that was the president's true confession of last week. We don't yet have a strategy.
All right. The miasma of words. I like that, Rosen. Final question for you. John Kerry, you just dodged, has been muted. All right. He, I think, is more hawkish than President Obama. Is that why they've shut him up?
I wouldn't agree with the proposition that John Kerry has been shut up. He spoke at some length today.
And did he say anything of note?
Nothing as eye-catching as the clip you played from Vice President Biden, where he promised to follow ISIS to the gates of hell. I will say that I have observed John Kerry up close as Secretary of State on foreign trips, and sometimes his demeanor has changed to the point where he will insert into every third sentence, the president has made clear it is the president's strategy, almost as if at some point he almost got rebuked by the White House for freelancing. I'm not saying that that actually happened, but clearly there have been marked changes, and there have been times where it's clear that he's received more strong-handed guidance from the White House.
That's what I'm
about
getting
the way he is putting things. But that's different from shutting him up.
So Rosen, of course, splitting hairs here, basically agrees with me. All right, let's go over to Cameron. I want to play this soundbite from Congressman Louis German of Texas. Go.
I think a lot of us would be willing to have a declaration of war against radical Islam, including Al-Qaeda, ISIS, ISIL, you know, all of these splinter groups.
Okay, so that's what I call for in the talking points memo. Is it possible?
Probably not. Gohmert knows, as you put in the very beginning of the show, Bill, that Congress very seldom declares war and hasn't done so in 60 years.
No, but just outwardly encourage, you know, start to debate things like that to put pressure on the president.
Oh, that's coming, for sure. Oh, yep. Absolutely. And you were talking a little bit about this earlier. What Gohmert wants and what a lot of members of Congress want is for the president to expand the airstrikes outside of Iraq into Syria.
Which he will.
And but all the mixed messages that we've had, it's important to note that he was one of the guys who actually suggested maybe it would be helpful to to get an authorization to use force from Congress weeks ago. So now comes Mr. Gohmert saying a declaration of war. But here's the thing. Democratic Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia has been badgering Obama for weeks, saying that he's got to come up with a rational plan so that Congress can debate and authorize it. No help from the White House. Republican Senate Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky. He backs an authorization of using force. It might not be the exact same one that perhaps Kaine would word, but they're already for it on the Republican side of the Senate. Yesterday in Florida, Democratic Senator Bill Nelson, who happens to be on the Senate Armed Services Committee, said he's going to introduce a bill in the Senate when the Senate gets back from the recess. And in the House, the top Democrat is Eliot Engel. And he argues that, technically speaking, the president's absolutely required under congressional action that after 60 days of airstrikes, he's got to come and get a congressional approval to continue it.
But what's now real quick?
But here's Bill. That would be the invitation. That would be the opportunity to take it beyond Iraq and go into Syria.
But you just said
important.
Nelson's going to introduce something. What is it? 20 seconds. What is Nelson going to introduce?
Authorization for the president to continue to use force in Iraq and expand it elsewhere.
All right. Gentlemen, thanks very much. We appreciate it. Plenty more Heads of Factor moves along this evening. The grievance industry furious at me for debunking the white privilege myth by pointing to the success of Asian Americans. We'll have a follow-up report. The Miller on Muslim terrorism and a big celebrity internet scandal. We hope you stay tuned for those reports.